Now, everybody, let's welcome today's guest for Brush Street Beat, presented by McLaren. We are joined by Brandon Inge, former Detroit Tiger. Brandon, it's so great to see you virtually. How have you been? I know you've been spending some time in an RV, getting some camping in. How have you been?
I've been great. I've been great. Glad to actually get back outside. I think both of my kids are starting to play travel baseball, so get to get outside and start watching the baseball again. So I'm glad to be out of the house. That was hard for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we really appreciate you joining us today. And we're going to start this off by talking about some of the classic Tigers games that Fox Sports Detroit has been re airing during this time of no baseball. Coming up this week, we're going to get to look at your game, the Tigers game, I should say, against the Cubs 14 years ago now, where you guys hit 8 home runs. Two of those home runs were from you. Really, what I want to know about that game is you guys were obviously hot, the bats were hot. Is that something that is just a mindset? Is that the focus, or is it just, you guys are reading the pitcher well that game?
It was a little bit more than that on that game. I don't remember a lot of things, but I remember a lot of team things where we all came together as a team. So Kenny Rogers is going for that very crucial win, and we all loved him as a leader. He stepped in to that role with us, and he kind of just led our pitching staff. I mean, he was like a player coach basically, and so we all knew that this was a big day for him, and it was crazy how much respect we had for him. And so that, I guess, motivation to try to win a ball game for him and get him some run support so he could just cruise through his very important day. I think that is actually what took over. I don't think you could have thrown Nolan Ryan against us that day, and we would have found a way to put some runs up for Kenny Rogers. And I just remember every hit we got, every home run we got, you know, it was like, is that enough? Can he win the game for that? And I just remember everyone going down the lineup, top to bottom, just putting on great at bats. And it was just one of those fluke days too, where everything we hit went out of the ballpark. It was a great day. We enjoyed that one.
To kind of follow up on what Daniella said, is that because no matter what the pitcher, you just said, hey, if Nolan Ryan was up there, we were going to hit him. Is that it doesn't matter what they're throwing, you guys were just going to hit it?
Yeah, we were going to handle business for Kenny. That was our thing. And in all honesty, that's the way we kind of did things that year anyway. We wanted to win a ball game. Jim Leland told us, play as hard as you can, and not for him, but for us as a group. And that's kind of the way we handle business. But that day was a little extra special because we had a guy, Kenny, that we really wanted to get a win for. So it really did. You're right. It was like beach balls thrown up there that day. We were just licking our chops, waiting to get a swing off at him.
Let's look at the opposite side of things for a pitcher, because you were a part of two of Justin Verlander's no hitters, I should say, and also a part of Galarraga's near perfect game. As a player in that game, not being the pitcher, so you're watching from either your position, wherever you're at on the field, or the dugout. What is that perspective like?
It's a little different. There's nerves. You're obviously trying to do something really well there. You're trying to protect your teammate, protect his no hitter, protect his perfect game. On the flip side, I think if you're really, really into it, I wanted the ball every time. In my mind, I'm like, please hit it to me every time, because the worst possible thing that could happen is you not have a play for 9 innings, and then that last play is coming to you, and then you haven't had any sort of feeling throughout the game. It's literally the hardest thing you could possibly do. So I'm like, please hit me the ball, please hit me the ball, so I can stay fresh and have a good feeling, so I can make the play across the infield. When it's accomplished, it is the greatest feeling. And it's not just that guy that did it. It was a collective team effort, but still, it's a great feeling. And when it doesn't happen, not so much of a good feeling. Not so much of a good feeling. And you know which one I'm talking about.
I want to ask you about the Galarraga game. We had Armando on a couple of weeks ago, and there's two plays besides Jim Joyce's call that people remember. One was the ball bouncing off, I think, Galarraga's ankle, going right to you, and you made the play. And Austin Jackson's like Willie Mays' over-the-shoulder catch in the ninth inning. When you're during the course of that game, do you allow yourself to get caught up in the moment? Not only am I going to be part of a no hitter, which I've been part of, I'm going to be part of a perfect game, which doesn't happen very often. Do you get caught up in that emotion? And did you thinking, hey, I had a big hand in this? I mean, Galarraga, this thing just bounced right to me, but I still had to make the play.
The really sad part about this is I'm not sure what inning that happened. So Funny thing about that is usually my ADD kicks in and I'm so focused on one thing and just win the ball game. And then it's usually the sixth or seventh inning where I'm like, wait a minute, did you just say he's got a no hitter going or a perfect game? And then I'm like, oh my God. Then it starts to set in. So it depends on what inning that was that I made that play. If it was early in the game, hell, I probably didn't even know. But if it was later in the game, yeah, I probably would have been a little stressed out.
I know you already said that it's obviously not fun to be on that side of a no-hitter or a perfect game, but Armando Galarraga handled it so well, and he still does when he talks about it. He finds every positive thing that you could possibly find from a situation like that. But for you, what was that moment like when they called him safe, and what was the mood like in the clubhouse after that?
Ah, it's really surreal. It's hard to describe because you're still winning the ball game. So your team is winning, but you know that your teammate worked his tail off the entire game to accomplish this amazing feat. And then all of a sudden on the very last play, it gets stripped away from him in the not right way. I mean, it was obviously he was out, but it's the weirdest feeling. I didn't have words for it. Honestly, I felt bad for him, and not only him, I felt bad for Jim Joyce. I really did because I know Jim Joyce at that point. Jeff Jones was our bullpen coach at that time, and Jim Joyce and Jeff Jones played college baseball together, so they're good friends. And anyone who's good friends with Jeff Jones is a good friend of mine because they're just awesome people. And so I felt bad for him in a second because I know he felt terrible about stripping that away from that kid. And honestly, I don't know if you guys know, but the next night when they were bringing the game ball and the lineup cards out that day, Joyce lost his mind. He started crying about it, how bad he felt about it. So, but in the moment, you feel terrible and you feel like there's nothing you can do. But, Galarraga and Joyce both handled that so professionally, and kind of proud of them for that, though.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that was, a real bad situation, which could have turned into a real ugly situation, was handled with class and dignity by both guys, and we were able to move on. And a bad moment became really a great moment in true sportsmanship. I want to get into your playing career a little bit. I know you spent 12 years with the Tigers. I remember you playing third, but looking up and doing a little bit of research on you, you played every positional position except pitcher at least once.
Yeah.
Were you the first super utility man, or when Jim Leland or whomever, maybe even Tram, says, "Hey, we're going to make you a catcher"? Don't get me wrong, you're not a small guy, but when you think of catcher, you're thinking of some big behemoth who's going to block the plate. Or were you the first who was versatile enough that you, as an athlete, that you could play any position?
I'm not sure how it quite unfolded. I know that I guess there was a need for the Tigers at that point in the catching spot. I didn't know it at that point. I was young. I was just coming out of college, so I didn't know what the Tigers' background was. But I still remember coming into spring training, not spring training, sorry. I went to Jamestown, New York. It's the first place I reported out of college. And actually, Trammell was there. Alan Trammell was there, and he was the infield roving coach at that point. And he said, I actually went to him. I said, "Do I need to take ground balls?" And he's like, "You can if you want." He goes, "You'll probably never see it here. You'll never see shortstop here." And I was like, "Okay, fine, Mr. Trammell. Whatever you say is fine." So I put my infield glove down and I started doing catching. And from that point on, it was catching nonstop. Now, I think at that point in baseball, I think there was trying to be like some sort of transition where they were going away from the big behemoth guys like you're talking about and trying to find someone who had a little bit of speed, who could catch and throw really well. Because, I mean, in all honesty, what do you really need big guys behind the plate for? I mean, you're trying to give a low target. In order to block the plate, that's about the only thing you need a big guy for. Other than that, and so I was happy to do it. It worked out well for me. And honest to God, I learned more about the game of baseball being a catcher than I did my whole college career at shortstop. So it all worked out for the best.
I mean, how different do you have to be? You played so many different positions, though. I mean, you played every position but pitch. Is it just baseball to you, or do you have to really say, okay, I'm in center today, or I'm a left fielder today, or I'm playing second, or I'm at short? I mean, is it a different mindset, or is it just, hey, when the ball's hit to me, I just have to make a play on it?
It was different at first, making sure that I was comfortable in spring training with all the positions. Basically, this happened when we signed Pudge Rodriguez just when we signed him, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not starting over that guy. He's legendary. I'm just going to get on the field wherever I can get on the field. And so then it was spring training was third base, shortstop, second base, ground balls everywhere, taking fly balls everywhere so that I was comfortable. So that when I got in the game, it was second nature. Then, like midway through the season, it was second nature, and it was kind of fun for me to go, okay, where am I hitting in the lineup? I kind of looked down the lineup. I'm like, all right, I'm hitting in the probably 9-hole, which is normal for me. And then I'm like, well, what number do I have beside my name? That was the funnest part. So try to figure out where I was going to play. So it was fun. It kept it interesting.
Brandon, when you look at what the Tigers are going through right now, they're definitely in a rebuild. You became a Tiger, I believe, in 2001. So you saw a rebuild firsthand. You were part of that rebuild. Are there similarities between what the Tigers are doing right now and what you went through? And that could you let Tiger fans know, hey, eventually this team is going to be back where you expect them to be?
Yes, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Don't worry. We will get there again. And put it this way, this team is light years ahead of where we were in 03. In case you haven't known about 2003 when watching right now, we were terrible. And I mean, terrible. And 119 losses, is that what it was? I think it was 119, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It was terrible. Not fun. But I've even talked to a few of the guys, younger guys there, Johnny Schreiber, some of those guys coming up right now, and they ask me stuff about that. I'm telling them, I'm like, listen, you learn more from seasons like this than you will in seasons that you win. It's easy to win. It's really hard to get knocked down every single day and find a way to come back the next day. So if they stick this out to where they can rebuild and get some big key components for this, then they're going to be fine. The guys that make it through this will be better off in the long run. So they just need to stick it out. Plus the pitching that they have in the minor leagues right now coming up, once they throw some key pieces in together, I think they're going to be just fine. I'll be excited to see it anyway.
Yeah, we say it all the time, Brandon, that there is a really, really bright future for the Tigers, and it's going to happen sooner than everybody expects. We've got some great prospects, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us, and another big thank you to our friends at McLaren Health Care for bringing us Brush Street Beat this week and every week right here on the Word on Woodward.